Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. My name is Scott, and we are here for what is the kickoff to what looks to be a fun weekend of pro wrestling coming from Perth, Australia. We've already got SmackDown in the books. We'll be touching on a few of the big stories to come out of that, and of course the Raw Go Home show as well, and how it affects Crown Jewel, also live from Perth, Australia this weekend. We're going to be doing that and breaking down the card in general and all our predictions right after this.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
All right, once again, welcome back to the channel, guys. It's a fun stream to be doing. It always is, doing these weekend kickoff shows, getting us hyped up and ready for the big event before the day kind of comes around, and we hit you with the build-up show with exactly the same hopes there as well. Of course, on the build-up show, we'll be talking last-minute rumors and last-minute predictions, but we are, at time of recording, just under a day away, essentially, from the PLE itself, here for the weekend kickoff show, and trying to kick it off in style, really, as WWE themselves have done. Of course, they've done their own kickoff show. Apologies for not doing a stream for it this time around. We just didn't really get around to that. But what we did manage to do was have a watch-along experience for SmackDown. So we are going to cover SmackDown here as well. Of course, at time of recording, SmackDown has happened, but it's not been shown officially, at least in the United States. So if you managed to watch it on a VPN, then congrats, or if you live outside the States, and also congrats, because you've probably seen SmackDown at this point. But if you're watching this and you don't want SmackDown spoilers, hey, go away, watch SmackDown, and come back, because we're going to be talking about things in reference to that as well. But SmackDown was a very, very fun show. I've given you the warning, guys. Hop out if you haven't seen it and you're bothered by spoilers. But it was a very, very fun show. And also, if you want to know our thoughts kind of instantly out of that, you'll also see the instant reaction review on this very channel for SmackDown itself. But yeah, let's get into what looks to be a very, very fun show this weekend. I'm going to be talking to Lucas throughout this stream in a little bit of time as well, and he'll be here also giving his thoughts and opinions on the kind of build towards Crown Jewel, what Crown Jewel being in Australia means, what the Crown Jewel championships have in store for them going forward. That was a bit of a mouthful for no reason, and also just kind of the show itself, what to expect from it now that it is in a different country. And yeah, the card's quite good. I'm actually really impressed by it. And I was very impressed by SmackDown, as I say. If you haven't seen it yet, you're in for a good show. Very, very enjoyable show. I'm hoping it's going to be the same for Crown Jewel in Perth, but let's run through the card and the matches that are hopefully going to deliver a great show overall. We've got a Crown Jewel Championship match, of course, in the women's division. It's the WWE Women's Champion Tiffany Stratton going up against World Champion Stephanie Vaquer. Of course, on SmackDown they teamed up, but they are going against each other for the much larger championship title, larger in size, not maybe so much in prestige, but again, we'll touch on that in a little bit at Crown Jewel for the Crown Jewel Championship, of course. We are also going to see Big Bronson Reed, of course, Australian himself, hopefully have a good showing against the big dog Roman Reigns. I'm really looking forward to seeing this and the reception that I expect Bronson Reed to get come Saturday afternoon for us here in the UK. It's going to be 1 p.m. in the UK. Also, we're going to see Rhea Ripley, again, also Australian, and Io Sky face off against Io's old running buddies in Asuka and Kairi Sane. A really interesting feud, this one here. Yeah, looking forward to seeing where this goes, because I think there's a few kind of potential swerves that could come up in this one. So we'll see what Lucas has to say about that later on as well. Then we've got John Cena versus AJ Styles. Apparently, for the last time ever, now Cena's dates are getting fewer and fewer, and this, of course, is his final year. AJ Styles, though, did also talk about how next year will be his final year, and I really appreciate that on the kickoff show. He did the old beat up John Cena quote as well. So that's quite fun. Looking forward to a fun match there as well. Then we've got Cody Rhodes, the WWE champion, going up against World Heavyweight Champion Seth Rollins in another Crown Jewel Championship match. Who's coming out on top on that one? We'll have to wait and see. But again, my predictions, I'm going to unload them here on this very stream. And as I said earlier on, I'm going to be joined by Lucas to do much of the same as well. But yeah, looking forward to this show. I am really intrigued by the fact that they've moved Crown Jewel to Australia, as we kind of touched on a little bit in the SmackDown watch along. It is quite interesting how they've moved it from Australia. Yeah, Australia last time also got Elimination Chamber, and now Elimination Chamber has also been in Saudi Arabia as well. So interesting to see, how they seemingly kind of, I guess, position these shows and rank them internally, because if they're willing to move, they moved Money in the Bank to London as well, but if they're willing to move Elimination Chamber twice, that's quite interesting. And if they're willing to now move Crown Jewel, a very Saudi Arabian event, it's been the case ever since the first one. It's been their event, right? That's now moved to Australia. Now you could think, hold on, the old monarchy theme, maybe they could have played into the Crown Jewel a little bit more if they came to the UK. Yes, Australia part of the Commonwealth and all that, but let's not get too much into politics and royalty. But what I'm saying is the kind of the theme of it, much like Clash at the Castle, a little while ago, about a year or so ago, I think me and Lucas were talking on the channel about how you could move Clash to so many different places because they have historical kind of, I guess, royal legacies and castles and stuff like that. And then they move it to Paris, and they don't even bother with a castle name. They just go straight out with Clash in Paris. So yeah, it is interesting to see how they use these PLE IPs now. But yeah, we are in many ways in new territory when it comes to the WWE. The old guard is gone, certainly, and Triple H has been on, at the helm for quite some time now. But then you've also got the changes with TKO, and they're constantly kind of tweaking things, it feels, as well. So really interesting just to see kind of what they picture as their kind of premium live events. Obviously WrestleMania is at the top, but then even that, it's recently just been announced to go to Saudi Arabia. So it really is kind of a bit of merry-go-round at the moment for PLEs, and I think that's kind of a good thing. Yes, there are things to be debated about all of these points to a certain degree, but as far as like PLEs can just happen anywhere, I'm pretty cool with that, and I'm really looking forward to seeing kind of what next big PLE breaks out of North America, for example. That sounds like I'm against the Americans getting their traditional shows. It's not that, but again, it was really exciting when Money in the Bank came to London. Really exciting when Elimination Chamber first went to Australia, and really exciting seeing that Crown Jewel has now moved away from Saudi Arabia as well. Talking of exciting, I am very excited to announce that we are about to bring Lucas onto the stream as well. Again, you would have seen Lucas earlier on today on the SmackDown watch along and the SmackDown instant reaction review. Again, if you haven't seen it already, make sure you go and watch that. You'll see exactly what we thought of that show. But again, here we go. Let's bring in Lucas and see what he has to say about Crown Jewel. How are you feeling, mate? You excited?
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to watch the show properly live tomorrow, but it falls in the middle of the day here in the UK. But I'm partly excited. I've got a lot to say about the show as a whole. As I actually think, annoyingly as well, I think SmackDown today being good has actually spotlighted a problem for me with Crown Jewel. I think it's good, but I don't think it's as good as it could be.
Right. So the thing is, for me, SmackDown being so good is like really helped hype me up for Crown Jewel. So, but maybe I'm going to be stung by that. So, what are your thoughts then?
I think the problem is like WrestlePalooza, like it wasn't the best, and I don't know if they've really made any adjustments again, because again we're sitting here talking about a 5-match card, with no title matches. Look, they can say what they want.
Yeah, true. Yeah, other than
they're they're just a favour to Saudi Arabia.
Well, CM Punk seemed a bit confused by that. Did you notice on Raw when he was like, jab it? Yeah.
They're not really defending, they're just rings that they get, and and the thing is, there's a lot of good story elements that can come from this, and obviously a lot of comments. Obviously, I'm reading a lot of comments obviously online about what some fans think the direction will go. and there's several different options for it. But I just think, particularly after today, you know, it feels weird today on SmackDown.
Yeah.
SmackDown, you know, seeing the other divisions get spotlighted there, it just makes you realise kind of what's missing from the PLE. And I've still checked. There's still no confirmation about this women's tag match, Zarya Saruka versus Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair. Like, I mean, at this point, I don't know. Are they going to just announce it on the day? Maybe
It would be great if it was on Crown Jewel. So for those unaware, on SmackDown they had a little backstage thing where they basically agreed to a match, but they didn't tell us where. So we were like, on this show or on Crown Jewel or next week, who knows? They haven't kind of announced it, but yeah, it would be nice if they added it on, because as you say, at the moment it's that typical 5-match card thing. But you raise a good point. I mean, there are no title matches other than the Crown Jewel Championship matches themselves, and again, we'll go into each match in depth and talk about the build and talk about where we see it going after this, and of course the results we'll predict as well. Look, I'm sure we touched on it a bit last year when they first announced these Crown Jewel Championships anyway. But I do want to kind of get your perspective on it a year later. Now, I want to say I did, and as I mentioned on the watch along, I really appreciated, which I'm sure they'll show at Crown Jewel as well, that promo video of them going to collect the titles, and they made it seem like a big deal. And they did the similar kind of thing last year. They really hyped up how grand the design was of the championship titles themselves. But it really fit in my opinion, with Crown Jewel as an event, and well, it's still a Crown Jewel, don't get me wrong, but Saudi Arabia, the whole kind of excess of kind of money and all this kind of stuff. That's what I thought was all about, and I thought it was about them kind of creating something for Saudi Arabia to be like, you get the real champion, you know, the champion versus champion, you know, because we've seen how they've kind of placated into some of the, you know, rumored requests from Saudi Arabia in the past for some of their shows, you know, the early ones, all the rumors about the legends they wanted, all that kind of stuff, and who knows what WrestleMania is going to be like. So this felt like, and the whole greatest Royal Rumble, this felt like another example of that. And yet, as soon as they do that, they move Crown Jewel away, but they keep the concept, you know, because before that they toyed around with King and Queen of the Ring again because of the kind of theme of their royal family. So I thought, okay, that makes sense. And then I thought, no, they've settled on it. Last year I felt like they'd settled on it, and I'm really intrigued by the fact they've moved it away from that. But I mean, I do like it as a concept, but there are always flaws when it comes to champion versus champion. Someone's going to look bad, and the problem is, we all know, we got to be honest, that at the moment, the world title, let's talk about the men, for example, the world title is the secondary championship. That's no offense to Seth Rollins or anyone that's held that title, but it's presented in that way. So for that reason, and we'll get to predictions, I think Seth should probably win. But at the same time, I do like the idea of it, and I like the ring. I like the presentation. Like they give someone a special ring and stuff like that, and it's like almost like a final, like a King of the Ring final, or if you compare it to football, like the Super Cup or something like that. You know, the Champions League versus the Europa League winner, or you know those, or the Community Shield, where the FA Cup and the Premier League winner. You know, it's kind of seen as a glorified friendly, but also somewhat a measure of kind of the best in the world. Sort of, but not really, because the actual titles are taken more seriously. So what are your thoughts on kind of the presentation of it, as I say, and kind of how that's kind of mixed in with Saudi, but not so much anymore, and also what it means for booking simply?
The presentation is wonderful. The booking around it is not, though, because you touched upon something there, that it's King of the Ring we've had. Who was in the King of the Ring final this year? Cody Rhodes. Who's in the Crown Jewel match this year? Cody Rhodes. Who was in the Crown Jewel match last year? Cody Rhodes. Who was champion last year? Cody Rhodes. Like, you have to at some point to move things on. Like,
yeah.
And I fear that, I mean, the biggest problem that's happened in the past, in the Triple H era, is that almost everything has been made exclusively for the top guys and girls to be part of. So things that previously would be for mid-card acts or for breaking through acts to be a part of, like Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
All have just gone to main event talent. Like, why did Drew McIntyre need the briefcase? There was no reason. The only reason it existed was so that he could continue to feud with CM Punk. But could we have done something else? Yes. Like anything. You got two main event talents that are over the crowd. Like, you could have furthered that feud, but not involved Money in the Bank. You know, at that point, you know, you wasted Money in the Bank, you know, that year for the men. And it meant that no one else was able to break through for it. And then you had to obviously wait a whole other year for someone else to win. And who wins? Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
A guy who already is a main event star. And we've seen what's happened with the Rumble as well, like, and even that, and that King of the Ring. Like, King of the Ring traditionally used to be like the stepping stone of people, like your Bret Harts, like Edge, like not so much Billy Gunn, but it could have been. Who knows? There's still a universe out there. Could have been, but I mean, it was made. It was stuff that was made for the mid card guys.
Yeah,
very much so. And even the Chamber, it went from. It's gone from it has featured obviously other championships as part of it at some point, but now it's gone to solely being number one contenders for WrestleMania, which means that it de facto has to feature the biggest people in the company. That's why you'd see CM Punk and John Cena this year in the Chamber as the final two. Two near 50-year-old men, competing for, a shot at a championship, held by a 40-year-old. Like it just counter it, yeah. But I think in terms of Crown Jewel and it moving to Australia, I think it does just show that the Saudis are definitely coming after the main pay-per-views of the WWE. And, well, they've already got two of them. They've got Rumble next year and they've got WrestleMania in 2027. So one would have to imagine they're going to want SummerSlam. They're going to want proper shows now. I think this is the move now. I don't know whether they have seen the fact that potentially the shows they've been given from a fan perspective are being treated like, house shows or B-level shows, even though they pumped a lot of money.
I'd say not so much anymore. The past few years, they've definitely felt more part of the actual storylines and kind of...
But I think there's still, from some fans, there's still that, it's a Saudi show.
Yeah, so almost you think by moving Crown Jewel, so I never really thought of that, they kind of shake the stigma of what a Saudi show is, even though it's not in Saudi. They move it to give weight to what the Crown Jewel name is,
but let's
not in Saudi. Really? So that when they get other things in Saudi, they also still feel important.
Yeah, but weirdly though, don't forget that this actually happened the other way around before, didn't it? Because Super Showdown was an event that was the original Australian PLE that took place.
Yeah, they really have traded PLEs.
That went to Saudi the next year. Super Showdown in February, the one that Ricochet lost to Lesnar in about 5 seconds. So maybe it's just a bit of a receipt.
And I mentioned earlier on, Elimination Chamber has been traded between the two as well.
Chamber as well. But in terms of the Saudi deal, obviously, it's a very it's always a very controversial deal every time you discuss it. And my stance on it has always just been, as a business, they're entitled to go where they want to go. As a business, they are also entitled to take the biggest purse and the biggest gates they want and chase that. And that's literally Tico's motive. And so it makes sense for this relationship to continue. I think that there's been massive leaps though in how things are done. Because I think we'll have to discuss it when we get to the Rumble talk, particularly around the Women's Rumble. And it'll be interesting seeing how that gets presented, because they've got away with obviously only having, the odd women's match on. And then they've moved up to obviously more the 50-50 booking kind of thing, but they haven't got a situation where you have to deal with the fact you're going to have 30 women in there.
It will be different.
Seeing what happens with that. In terms of Crown Jewel tonight, though, and what we're getting, I think it's good that the belts are continuing, because obviously we had that whole kerfuffle with the Greatest Royal Rumble title, and that belt never got seen again. It literally never got seen again. That was it. I think it's a good thing. I mean, the thing is though, what's interesting, Triple H obviously he had made an effort to kind of get rid of gimmick pay-per-views, but he's kind of de facto created a different separate one now, a new one. Obviously this now dictates that whoever your two champions are going to have to fight at this event. Regardless of any other storyline or anything else that's going on. And going forward, obviously, where it's situated is a difficult one, because we realistically may not see the world, both world titles on the line like too frequently now, until we get into WrestleMania. And I really, really hope falling back into that territory of we're waiting for WrestleMania for someone to beat Cody. Because I think the time to do it is actually now. It's actually. Last month there was that big thing. A lot of people were pushing for Drew to win, wanting Drew to win, even though it was only like a month after Cody won the title. But it's because we're literally screaming out for something different, anything to break this mold of SummerSlam, WrestleMania, every single year. Because there's a lot of people that deserve it, and obviously, it just seems that and even when people change brands like LA Knight, Paul LA Knight, like still, it just doesn't feel like he's anywhere near getting that belt.
Yeah, and sticking to that formula also means they miss the boat, like when someone's hot, don't they? You know, like they had that crazy situation a few years ago where Sami Zayn arguably should have won the title at Elimination Chamber, but a month later they were having the first Cody Roman blow off as well. So it was weird timing. You know, I mean that's really kind of crazy timing. But you know, there are these examples, like you say, LA Knight, of kind of, well, if you don't want to pull the trigger now because they're not quite at this event, then it's always going to be certain guys that can even get into that match, let alone win that title. Do you know what I mean? So it is a risky move. I mean, what are your thoughts on, you know, again, bringing it back to championships and kind of Crown Jewel? What are your thoughts on, again, you know, it sounds like you like the idea of it being something that's continued, but not maybe taken too seriously. But then it does bring up those challenges of like, well, a champion's going to look bad. And again, it depends on what's going on, and we'll touch on a little bit about who it should be this time around later on. But generally speaking, the World Heavyweight Championship has been the secondary if we're talking about the men's. So do you think, generally speaking, again, not about this, we'll talk about Seth and Cody themselves later on, it's better to try and make whichever title seems like is perceived as the weaker one, if there's any chance to make that look stronger, this is it, right? By at least doing that, because otherwise you are shooting yourself in the foot and going, yeah, they're not this title. That champion's not the real champion. You know what I mean? Because last year was Cody, and it was kind of obvious.
Yeah, I think that's why they have the power to do something quite good at this show. I think to break this mold. I think they need to give it to whoever they feel needs it more. I don't necessarily think it matters about the secondary belt thing, because I could argue from their perspective, they would argue they've got two top champions, you know, and I doubt anyone in WWE would probably be allowed. I know we're not in the Vince days of him throwing stuff about and ripping up scripts and stuff, but I still don't think anyone could confidently walk around in WWE Creative, you know, with a thought process of, oh, we're just booking for the secondary belt now. You know, this goes for the same for the women too. I don't believe that'll be allowed. So I think that in their heads they wouldn't see it as a secondary belt. They see it, well, we've got two champions. One lose. You know, obviously Crown Jewel, I mean, something they could do, and I think they probably will do. Might even try and lock this in as a prediction for next year. I think they might end up doing it as a mixed tag.
Oh, I like that.
The two, so that way you have the two,
yeah.
Or even opening it up to like, even if you want to keep it to the same gender tag, it could even open up like the champion gets to pick someone to fight with them.
Yeah, or even the secondary from the same brand.
I'm sorry?
You know, like the secondary one from the same brand, like the US and you know, whatever's aligned. WWE.
Might be the only way that the tag belts get on the show, actually.
Yeah.
Team the world champion up with the tag belts.
Yeah. I mean, it's not new territory, is it? I mean, again, linking in with the Saudi shows, again, we know this is in Australia. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But Night of Champions, you know, it's a age-old concept. It's been used on and off by WWE and WCW over the years and WA. But championships need to be on the line. But sometimes those things, and at Survivor Series as well, bragging rights, all this kind of stuff, they did have champion versus champion on those shows as well. And it still brought up that same risk factor of like making a champ look bad. So they do need to, it depends where they are at booking, but generally speaking, it's not the greatest thing, especially one of those years, as it has been with, as you say, those kind of, what do you call them? Gimmicked pay-per-views where it's like, oh, we have to make this feud turn into one that is needing a Hell in a Cell just all of a sudden. We have to make these guys bleed blue for SmackDown all of a sudden. You know, it is a messy thing where some years it might work in their favor. I don't think it's that bad this year. I don't think this year there's a massive risk that anyone's going to look terrible. But
I'd argue them only being able to put the belt on Stephanie has weakened the women's one a little bit. Because obviously if Stephanie had won the championship at Clash in Paris, and then they could have done a bigger kind of build up to it potentially. But, you know, she only won it a couple of weeks ago at WrestlePalooza.
Yeah.
Which obviously, and it's not really a feud. That's something they've maybe got to get better at. They've got to find a way to make things that they seem to go from. They only seem to be able to do one or two things. It's like people are either buddy with each other on one side, or it's like extreme deathmatch feud. You know, like it needs to be like round. Like I get that Stephanie and Tiffany aren't going to have a massive like blood feud because, with respect, they've had like no prior interaction. They're on different brands, and you know, like they're not. They're both meant to be babyface champions. But it's a case of give us something to like, why do we, we have something. And the fact that Tiffany's won the belt and Tiffany's the longest reigning champion. I think she's the longest reigning champion in the company now, isn't she? I think because Open Family lost.
Yeah, and I guess Cody. Although it feels like Cody's been champ forever, he did lose the title and get it back.
Even Rollins only won it at SummerSlam. So yeah, I think
true.
Running champ, in the company at the moment. But yeah, I suppose they don't do enough to build up the story, around it. They do well. That's the thing. I think that's what contributes to presentation. The presentation, I think, is done quite well. Of this, and it will be done. I imagine it may not be as good as the Saudi presentation potentially because money. But they tend to do these things quite well. Don't they? This whole like presenting a new belt and stuff. And I guess it'll be another excuse, most likely, for Triple H to get himself in front of the crowd.
Like you say, presentation-wise, and we saw a little bit of this on SmackDown as well. That set, was the kind of the duel, and it will look a little bit better. They'll probably highlight that a little bit more on the show itself. But I do like things around it. I like the ridiculously overhyped kind of security thing of the titles. I like the ring thing. I do like that sort of stuff. I also think it's interesting that I know you said, it's Cody again, but it actually works in the favor this time because someone can come in and bring on that prestige of like, I'm still the champ from last year and I want to keep that. So I do quite like that because it's not a continual reign of like, getting it back. It is whoever's on top that year. Again, much like, a Super Cup type thing in football. Let's get to some comments here as well. We do want to know what you're most looking forward to at Crown Jewel, what you think is going to happen at Crown Jewel. We see we've got Cody Burris in the house. Always good to see you, buddy. Join us over on Twitch. So appreciate those that have joined us there, as well as here on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling YouTube channel. Says, I need to get up early tomorrow, 5 a.m. for Crown Jewel. See, again, it's crazy, man. Like we were talking about this on SmackDown as well. For us in the UK, SmackDown, Crown Jewel, and Raw all starting at 1 p.m, which is just kind of bizarre. But it means we've been able to give you some extra content around it. So I hope you appreciate that. And look, we appreciate those that are getting up early and tuning into these streams as well. We really do appreciate the support you give us. And of course, your dedication to WWE, which is why we're here in the first place, because we all love this crazy world of pro wrestling. Let's start getting into the card itself, and we'll start with one of those Crown Jewel matches and predicting one of those. Let's start with the women's one. We touched on it a little bit there, of course, Tiffany versus Stephanie. It's going to be an interesting one to see how they go about this, because again, it brings up some of the things we've already mentioned there about which champion you can afford to make look bad. At this very moment in time, I think because she's only just won the title, even though it's not for the title, I would prefer to see Stephanie win. But you could also argue that Tiffany's not had the greatest past few months, right? So maybe she needs a little bit of a shine here as well. I'm really 50-50 on this one, so I'm going to be a little bit of a coward and throw it over to you first, if you don't mind. Tiffany, Stephanie, what do you reckon?
So yeah, I think that it's probably going to be no surprise when you watch the instant reaction and I'll watch along. I think Stephanie Vaquer is the star now, and she needs to win. I think it's quite easy in my head, really. I think that Tiffany's had a very long reign, and yes, there's been some bad booking around that. But I also think some of her performances in the ring haven't been the best, which isn't really down to booking. Like obviously her disappearing and just only appearing backstage has been their decision, which I think is thing. But I think some of that needs to happen. It's actually probably needed to happen for quite a number of months now, potentially since WrestleMania. She needs to turn heel.
100%.
Is a heel. It doesn't make any sense trying to present what she is as a babyface. She got
maybe this is how you do it though, because two respectable baby faces, and then at the end she's a sore loser.
Yeah,
this could be the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you can either turn her in the match or you can turn her after the match. I think either one works. But I'd have her just do because basically they do the whole presentation, don't they? Straight afterwards, I'd have her literally just go into full sore loser.
Yeah, and for on the other side of that, they've been really good in promoting the kind of human side of Stephanie's journey.
Yes.
Her dad, and they even mentioned it on SmackDown. Was it SmackDown on the kickoff? I saw it Sunday at some point, sometime today. But yeah, I think playing in, maybe this is it. Maybe we've just stumbled into an interesting prediction there that maybe Stephanie does win and Tiffany turns at the end, because you could argue sometimes you want a heel turn to be really clear, like turning on a friend or a
Mm.
very, very babyface character. And I mean, look, I'm saying she is super babyface anyway, but she is still quite new. But I think that freshness will help it. I think Tiffany going, yeah, in that, I think you're right. That presentation at the end is a great opportunity to do something like that.
We need these moments back. I think that's what we miss. Like, I don't know. Generally, since WrestleMania, how many of these kind of big moments can we count? You know, it's on one hand or less. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's very like, and it felt as much. I don't want them to go back to Crash TV of the '90s. You know, where there's like, you know, car crashes and then someone's having someone's baby and then something else, blah blah. You know, I don't want that level, but I do want this unpredictability factor and something to go, oh, actually, and that's why generally this week's television I think been quite good. I think we're seeing fresh. Go back to what we were saying about MFTs against the Wyatts earlier. You know, I don't want it to go back to MFTs against Sami Zayn. Like, I don't want to go backwards. Like, just move forward. Let Sami Zayn lane. We know we can wrestle. We could wrestle paper bag every single week. It'd be fantastic. Just let him do that. Like, let him. Basically, he's got the wrestling title. When I say he's got the wrestling title, there's so many people who are walking around, you know, every single week in catering, and they can all wrestle. And and just have him burn through those until you get a time where you know you want someone to beat him, you know. And you get a good solid, like, you know, especially once you add in the fact that the Brown split's basically dead now. Let's be real. So it could be Raw superstars, it could be NXT superstars, TNA superstars, even. You know, there's so many wrestlers basically out there. Just have them do that. And then on the side, have the Wyatts and MFTs go at it. And there's so many fresh matches, fresh combinations, and they've got to just not be scared to do it. Is what it feels like. Sometimes it feels like they're just like hesitant and reluctant to do things, and they want to keep things just very much like, you know, because again, we'll get to it later on, but obviously in terms of this match, this is a nice fresh match we're getting. You know, for the Crown Jewel stuff, it's two very fresh faces in this kind of position. Also, Tiffany's been champion for quite some time, but she hasn't really been spotlighted too much. You know, like as champion. You know, the other championship, you know, on Raw side of things, got spotlighted a lot. I mean, even I'll get one point. I'd say for me, the title wise, you know, Tiffany was pretty much, in terms of the women, you know, at times has been that kind of barely number 2, sometimes even number 3 champion. I think even some of stuff Becky, some of the IC champions.
Oh, 100%.
Has eclipsed anything Tiffany's done.
Yeah.
And you know, and even some of the when they want to present the women's tag titles, good, like they have done with the Charlotte Flair Let's Bliss tag team. Even that. So sometimes I'd argue Tiffany was potentially the least important women's champion, you know, in the company, which, you know, is bad. You know, and it's because of the booking, but I'm not saying because of her.
Yeah.
Booking. But they've got a fresh match here, fresh faces, and I think the way that they could do this, I think a turn could really help it. I think it could stamp it, and it could then shake up the reign of Tiffany Stratton. Challenges, see new matches, you know, new bits and pieces go on, because generally, like, who is left for her to beat?
Yeah, and it's a good way for her to have a reason to turn as well, like without even taking the title off it. And it gives her a new kind of, if they don't want to take the title off it, it gives her a new element there because she's jealous about something else that hasn't even meant that she lost the belt.
I'd argue it probably then makes going into feud with Jade Cargill a bit easier if that's what they wanted to do too, because you have a clear-cut villain and a clear-cut babyface.
Yeah.
Then I do believe that the plan should still be to probably put the belt on Jade. And then that can create... And then I think I'll argue then you've probably got a good situation then, because of what we've seen on SmackDown with Zelina Vega, you know, now back as a Black, you know, and if that goes a bit further, we see, you know, her as a top contender against someone like a Jeff. And that's a match that's made easily because you've got the big powerhouse babyface against obviously smaller villain. You know, still got Julia, kind of James, she's got lots of people, but she's obviously getting those people onto TV, I guess.
Yeah, I'd say going back to what you said there about Jade Cargill potentially being the successor really for Tiffany's title, I think Tiffany turning on Jade wouldn't go down because, again, they are two baby faces, and it sometimes works, but I think for those characters it's not really been that case for this feud. So having her turn on Stephanie and then going to Jade kind of helps Jade at the same time. So let's get to a few comments here. Matt Ball's in the house. Always good to see you, Matt. Says women's champ versus champ. Didn't the last Crown Jewel match between the women end up with a light finish, i.e. a quick roll-up to keep both looking strong? I think it was something like that. It was Liv Morgan, wasn't it, who won? But yeah, I mean that kind of plays into what we were saying earlier on about the kind of the dilemma of how do you, because one of them, yeah, that is the solution, but with this one, as we say, given to Stephanie, but then the beatdown from Tiffany kind of helps make her look good, if you will, by looking bad, if that makes sense. He also says, why am I talking into R2D2? At first, when I saw that comment, I was like, what are you talking? And then I realized the microphone kind of looks like R2D2 at this moment as well. Also, can Lucas get any closer to the script? Me and Lucas are about the same, Matt. What are you talking about? He's not. He's the perfect distance, Matt. Don't be. What are you talking about? Yeah, is that what you're saying? You want him closer, or you thought he was too close? Will Lucas be watching the PLE from his local cinema? You know what?
Of course I get no.
I'd love to see more PLEs in cinemas and things like that. I don't really do that as much these days. But
I swear, View were doing. They've done a couple of the Saudi events.
Because of the timing, I remember. Yeah, when they first,
and it wasn't very popular. So I guess.
Yeah. But now WWE is more popular. So I mean, WrestleMania would be. WrestleMania in Saudi gives a great opportunity for that, because it's WrestleMania and at a reasonable time. Yeah, so all right, we'll see. Watch this space. Maybe we'll put an event on or something like that. Right, anyway, let's get to the next match to predict. I think it's safe to say that we're both going to go with Stephanie Vaquer for the Women's Crown Jewel Championship. Let's move on to the next one, though. Let's talk Big Bronson Reed versus Roman Reigns. Looking forward to this one because I've enjoyed the feud overall. And I said earlier on, before you jumped on air on the watch-along, it's kind of weird looking at some of these matches and you're like, oh, of course that's what they were setting up all that time ago. Bronson Reed versus Roman Reigns is a feud that's gone on for a while. They face each other within a tag team environment, but also a single match as well. But it felt natural for Bronson Reed anyway. Now that you put the blow off in Australia, you're like, oh, yeah, that feud started at the perfect time, really, didn't it? This is the kind of culmination of that. And it's great to see Bronson getting this opportunity in Australia as well. But yeah, prediction-wise, I still feel the same as I did at the beginning of the feud, that I think the young guy needs to go over. And I think Bronson needs to win here. But I don't know if that's the case, because how many kind of setbacks can Roman Reigns have as well? He's not had the greatest 2 years, is he? So maybe he needs to start stacking up the wins, and maybe the big hometown reception is enough for Bronson Reed in this environment. What do you think?
It's really hard to call, but I do think that they do need to start giving. I mean, the aura of Reigns is still going to be there, I think, for quite some time. Like he really, as we know, he rebuilt himself through COVID and through that long title reign. But there was always this case. This situation was always going to happen. It was always going to get to the other side of this reign. And unless he retired, he would have to just basically go back to being booked normally. And in WWE, you win some, you lose some. But I don't know whether they're going to pull the trigger. It does feel like sometimes with WWE, the match is the reward. If that makes sense. Or the match is the thing.
Yeah.
To Bronson wrestling in Australia for him is his big thing. And I don't know. I'm trying to remember. So we had not SummerSlam. So at SummerSlam, yeah, Reigns also defeated Breakker and Reed. Reigns also defeated him at Clash in Paris. So we're talking. He doesn't need to win 3 in a row, surely.
No.
But it's all for me though. It's also linked into the main event because obviously it's a vision match.
True. Yeah. And weirdly, Heyman, and again, we'll touch on this more later on, but weirdly, Heyman has said, he's referenced turning on Roman for Seth rather than CM Punk for Seth, which is strange because the Punk Seth thing seems to be a story that goes on forever. So he could have quite easily said, I turned on both my friends for you. But he specifically said Roman Reigns. So you might be right. This might kind of start leading towards that vision kind of side as well.
Street fights, there has to be a winner. Well, say that we had a Hell in a Cell win in DQ, didn't we? I'm gonna go with Roman. Yeah, I'll go with Roman. I think that there are still a lot of this is still kind of a house show kind of vibe to this show, and I think because something will happen later on, I'll go with Roman one final time. Yeah, Roman to win.
Wow, 3 straight wins for Roman Reigns. Of course, one of them a tag team match, as you said, but still a big call. Matt says they'll protect Reigns, as Scott says. I think they're a little lost on what's next for Reigns. I agree. It looks like they might be going into the Seth Rollins thing again, but that's what I mean about the past 2 years. Like, as you say, he won those last 2 matches, so it's not like he's under, whatever, but like it's so strange perception, because he's not on top. It feels like it hasn't been a great time for him, but he's still strong. But
I think the problem they have also is that they've developed the rule of essentially, if Reigns isn't going to be on something, they have to do a big deal to get him off. So, for example, like they knew he wasn't going to be on WrestlePalooza because it had Brock Lesnar, Cena, so they had to write him off, which was the 3rd time they've written him off this year. To then miss WrestlePalooza, to then return after WrestlePalooza, then be on Crown Jewel, and now it's a case of, is he going to get written up again if he's not going to Survivor Series? You know what I mean? Like, it gets to the point of just have the man just win or lose, and then he just goes away for a little bit, because everyone else does. To be real, look at Shinsuke. Nothing wrong with him. She just literally disappeared for like 6 months.
How many times can they do Roman Reigns returns to Raw or SmackDown? And it seemed like a big deal anyway. Matt also says, I wonder which Samoan will debut during the street fight for the finish. Yeah, again, good point. It is a street fight. They're not really leaning into that side at the moment, but I get the joke. Don't get me wrong, man. Like, it's always a possibility when it comes to Bloodline or Bloodline adjacent members and matches. But I suppose they could lean into, there's a lot of strange stuff going on with Jimmy and Jay at the moment as well. So it's an interesting time for like kind of the top end of the Raw card, because I genuinely couldn't tell you what they're going to do at Saturday night's main event. I genuinely couldn't tell you what they're going to do at Survivor Series. So it is really really hard to predict at the moment. But yeah, going back to this match and what we predict here, I'm gonna go, because of the 2 last Reigns ones. I do want to go Bronson Reed, but I don't know if that's my heart more than my head. Because, like you say, like him coming out and the reception in Australia, that is the reward in many ways. But I also think, like, if you're serious about Bronson Reed, then you can't be. It's not burying him, but like, it ain't great, is it? So I'm gonna go Bronson Reed. Yeah, I'll go Bronson Reed. Just spice it up a little bit. Keep your comments coming, guys. We want to know what you think's gonna happen, what you'd like to see happening as well. Once again, thank you to those that tuned in earlier on for our SmackDown instant reaction review and our watch along. We're also going to be back on the day of the PLE, as we always are, with our build-up shows, getting you hyped up and in the mood, talking last-minute rumors and predictions. You may even be watching this stream as a replay on the earlier portion of the build-up show, but this is actually live, of course, on the night before, Friday night. It actually is getting towards the night now, Lucas. It's a bit confusing. My brain's frazzled with all these time frames. Yeah. We watched SmackDown at 1 p.m. here in the UK, so I don't know where we're at. I feel very confused at the moment. But look, we're getting hyped up and in the mood for what looks to be a fun show, Crown Jewel. Again, SmackDown, if you haven't seen it already, very, very much enjoyed by the 2 of us earlier on. So again, if you haven't already, check out our review. Let's get back more to the subject at hand, though. We've talked about Reigns and Reed. Let's move into a tag team match that's been brewing for quite some time as well. We've got Kairi Sane and Asuka teaming up against Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. Now, the interesting thing here, of course, is the relationship between Io and Asuka and Kairi having broken down. This is a story we've actually covered quite a bit on this channel because, again, we don't usually get to do watch-alongs, but thankfully a lot of this story started to kind of bubble under the surface when they were on the European tour, and we did a few kind of watch-alongs and reviews of those shows then. So since then, things have really ramped up, and Io and Rhea are officially buddy-buddy. They're teammates now, and they're going against Io's former friends. Again, it's much like the Bronson Reed situation where I was like, looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, they were sowing the seeds for just a match for Rhea. We knew Rhea was going to have a big match. We just didn't know what it would be. Now it's a tag team match. I did, when watching the kickoff show, start to wonder, is this just going to be a turn for Io Sky to be heel and say, are you dumb? These are my friends. Like, not you, Rhea. Like, and just kind of, it's that typical storyline. We've seen this before. Like, one example, Stephanie McMahon realizing, you know what, screw Test, I'm actually all right with what Triple H did, or screw Vince trying to look after me. Like, it's that kind of storyline where where the babyface goes, no, actually, I am a bad guy, and I agree with everything they say. I could picture that happening here, and especially in Rhea to be embarrassed in her home country and all this kind of stuff. It would be big. My only, well, not my only concern, my major concern is that I don't want it to happen. I think Io is so over as a babyface, and this, in my opinion, is her greatest period that she's had. Like, Michael Cole will happily go on record saying at the moment she's the greatest women's wrestler in the world. And I think that kind of praise, along with the fact that she's really won the fans over and started to connect with them in a different way than she's ever done before. I think it'd be crazy to turn her heel at the moment. But you know, we've seen crazy things happen before. So I hope it's not the case, but I would understand the booking in the sense of if they didn't expect it to be that over and just thought, oh, this is a cool story to tell. I do appreciate that. But yeah, that only hit me literally today watching the kickoff show that could be where we're heading. But what are your thoughts about this kind of dynamic between the four of them?
Yeah, no, I think it's been very good. It's been very interesting. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. It's the wrong time to turn Io. You know, she's so over. She's so beloved by the fans and stuff. And I think that she's one of those wrestlers that could get away with, if you wanted to fight, if you wanted to face Rhea, to book the match. Just you know, she's more than proven this year that
there's no long-term benefit in her turning heel.
Nah.
Like, we're back where we were a few months ago, and wasting a great babyface run.
No, I mean, I'd imagine that this will then lead into, like, you know, obviously they will need to determine a next contender for Stephanie Vaquer. And this again goes into the one problem that Crown Jewel's actually going to keep coming up with every year is that they will need to obviously make sure they're setting up a new contender kind of around the same time as Crown Jewel taking place, because at the moment it's like the champions are obviously pausing their things, and I think this is where sometimes they need to be able to do those audibles, those last minute things, you know, happening, because you know, if the champion is focused on like one person who's another champion, it's this kind of like exhibition match kind of thing. Why wouldn't someone seize that opportunity and be like, you know what, this champion's not even caring about me or about anything else. Let me just take my opportunity, and you know, the Raw SmackDown before the show, let me win the championship.
It's a good time to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase as well.
Yeah, the champion's not. You got two in the ring each time, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, they did flirt with that last year, didn't they? Because Tiffany tried to cash in on Nia and Liv.
Yes.
So yeah, they could definitely go back to something like that.
Yeah, but ultimately, yeah, I think this is going to be definitely something that continues further past this. But yeah, I don't think it should include Io Sky as the bad guy.
Yeah.
I imagine that, Io and Rhea would get the win here. I do think we're probably going to go, but weirdly, I do think they're going to do the typical losing upwards thing, and I could imagine that Asuka will be positioned as Stephanie's first feud after this.
Yeah. I mean, you've still got as well the talk about kind of dilemmas of kind of who's actually friends with who. Kyrie still being, and again on the kickoff, they really played into this. Like, she was saying that she respects both, you know, sides, and Asuka was like, no, like telling her what to say. It was quite funny.
But the thing is, there's even some fun things they could do, like, because even with Kyrie, what if they did like a match, like, you know, like a 4-way? Well, this tag match could become a 4-way. Easily. And
number one contender
accidentally kind of wins that, and she becomes a contender. Then you got Kyrie taking on Stephanie, and then Asuka's jealous, and Asuka costs.
I like that because
the matches that can come out of this.
Yeah, that I like because it gives, because Kyrie's amazing and she's fallen into the background of this group. They're all talented within if we're talking about the three, you know, with Io, they're all super talented, like they're in their own right and main eventers in their own right. But Kyrie's been lost.
I mean, I've made this thing like a point this year, but I think remove the gender. Like, we're talking about three just of the best wrestlers they've got in Asuka, Io Sky, Kairi Sane.
Yeah,
Ripley as well, 4, and then plus Seth Vaquer. Like, you know, you're talking some of the best,
great talented. Yeah,
enter a wrestling ring. You know, in the year 2025. Like, I think you know, and I think there's so many strands that could come out of this. I mean, I'll probably go down that. I'll probably go down Kairi, or it's like a battle royal or something. Like, again, just more ways to feature more women as well. Do you know what I mean? Like a battle royal, when Kairi accidentally wins it, like, or accidentally eliminates Asuka, and then and then she ends up winning or something.
Yeah. Or even like they make the match between the four of them because there is still friction, and she's like, I don't want to be in the match, and then she's in the match, and then like Asuka's like, yeah, but you're gonna help me, and then she somehow like accidentally wins, like you say, and then Asuka's like, all right, well, yeah, okay, I'm all right with it, but she's clearly not, and then she tries to cost her the thing, and then eventually like Kairi is the big one. It's not about Io anymore; it's about Kairi conquering, which it definitely could be because they've definitely got that kind of seed in there anyway of Kairi being kind of coerced and all that.
Just hope whoever's writing it wasn't and dealing with this isn't the same person who was dealing with the Otis and Shad Gable thing last year, because that honestly had me in absolute just like hysterics sometimes. Not hysterics, but absolute fits of rage. Like, it's right there. Like, it's right there.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Just
do the moment. It's there now. And they just didn't do it. They just decided not to do it. And yeah, Chad Gable isn't a much better, wasn't a much better place before he left.
Yeah.
We obviously need to see what will happen when he does return. Obviously, I do think the Americana character is going to grow away from him. But anyway, sorry. I think the definitely.
That's if it was him in the first place, Lucas. What are you talking about? Let's not make accusations.
But you know what I mean? Like, I think they need to make sure that there is definitely this come up in. But there's so much they could do with this. Yeah. Because even in the 4-way, you have the whole thing, got the Asuka lock. You got that submission locked in. The person's not tapping. And another person obviously kind of comes in to stop it. Kairi has a dilemma. Like, does she break? Does she just, attack that person? And obviously Asuka gets a tap out. Or does she maybe roll up that person? Roll them up, quick 3 count, 1, 2, 3. Just that person's about to tap.
Yeah.
Kari's one. Or we've seen a lot of these, particularly women's back, a lot of the kind of aerial stuff we've done. We've seen like obviously at WrestleMania, obviously Io Sky with the did the moonsault, onto the was it the figure 4? No, what move was it?
Oh, was it the? No, I'm thinking it was Charlotte with the thing, but it wasn't. But they were kind of in that same position, weren't they? Like,
what way?
Like the figure of 8. Something was going. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
We've seen that. I mean, and Kairi saying she got the elbow drop, the insane elbow drop at the top.
Yeah.
What if that? But I think there's so many ways they could go with this and I think it's one of those where you just got to go with the fact that look at all the options of good matches you have, and just book towards them. Like this, if you want Kairi to be the first challenger, that works. You want Asuka to be the first challenger, that also works. Again, you want Io to be the first challenger. There's so many just genuinely good, genuinely, I think Io Sky and Stephanie was probably the best match they've been probably since Mania. I think it was such a good match.
Really good.
And it was good. They just gave them time, and they didn't do any of the interference, distraction, all that kind of stuff. That, can obviously, don't get me wrong, some of it helps the match, but because it's been done so many times now, it's kind of losing its effect. Because it's just like, oh, of course, someone can interfere because that's how it's done. But I think in terms of this tag, I think that Io and Rio will get the win. I think. Yeah, it's Rhea's hometown, but I think it will be a case of losing upwards, and we'll probably see Asuka or Kairi Sane challenge Stephanie, going forwards.
It's strange though, because I look at the graphic and I'm like, oh, the tag team should win. Like but it is a different kind of scenario.
But another thing,
though, Rosie there.
They have got a Women's Survivor Series tag to set up. Survivor Series or War Games tag, depending.
Yeah, so I saw this rumored kind of. Like in between coming off of there from the SmackDown review and on air for this show, about what the men's and women's war game is going to be, and it was so wildly over the place. I'm like, is that legit? I couldn't tell. It's one of those where they were quoting a reputable source, but I can't remember. But I don't know if it was an actual kind of if it really came from them, So I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know. I saw it kind of third party, I guess, or second hand, if you will.
What's been the discussion about the women's one then? I'm not really seeing much about.
So I saw it was like. It was more like your classic war games where it's like loads of random people just together, or your classic Survivor Series match. It wasn't like the Bloodline versus the MFTs. The men's one was like. And I don't know if this was legit or anything like that. And I'm only trying to remember it. But it was basically like, yeah, that was it. The men's one was like Punk, Roman. It might be Punk, Roman, Jay, someone else. And the other side was Seth, the 2 guys from the Division, Brock Lesnar and Austin Theory. And I don't get where that... So I don't...
I know where Austin Theory's coming from.
Yeah. But then the women's one was a similar kind of thing. Yeah, one of them said Lash Legend. And I was like, what? Where? How's that coming? But it was basically, like it might have been Rhea, Io. It was all the baby faces versus all the heels, basically.
Yeah.
It was that kind of thing. Oh, like Becky on the bad guy side as well. So, but again, I don't know how legit this was. It was just something I saw just before coming on air.
Well, the thing is, they haven't really got any factions for the women.
No,
they haven't really got any. They got a couple. They barely got tag teams, to be real.
no, yeah. If Liv was around, you could definitely flesh that out a little bit. You have Liv and Raquel with Roxanne Perez as well, so they could maybe kind of do something like that. It's not enough.
In my opinion, you have to sit there and say, look, do we do a War Games match when we haven't really got a War Games team?
Yeah.
Are we going to force it together now? Which literally was the problem people were having with Survivor Series previously. Correct me if I'm wrong. The problem people were having is it all thrown together, and it's just because of the month of the year it was in.
Yeah,
really
same
got
thing.
That. I mean, we can maybe because even with this tag match, like this could be the start of something. But then who do the Kabuki Warriors choose? Particularly with Asuka being so bossy and stuff, So is it just maybe just do one, just do one War Games match?
Yeah, no, I agree.
But that's obviously something for next month potentially. But I don't see how Lash Legend. I mean, look, I'm all for people getting call ups and stuff and getting used well, but that would be really jumping the gun. Time got, and with the fact that she'd lost her last two feuds in NXT, again, I know I said losing upwards, but if you're talking about someone who's lost two feuds back to back,
and you're going into the main event of Survivor Series potentially.
This whole. I don't know if they say it or not, because the ones I keep seeing for the men involved Cena on one side and Brock Lesnar on the other side. And I think Cena is more likely out of the two. In terms of percentages, I'd probably say maybe 10%, 15%. Actually, maybe high, maybe 30% to be fair. But I think he is. If he does do it, he's in last and just literally everything's always set up for him. So he comes in, AA someone through a table, AA someone off the cage, shoulder tackles everyone. AA someone, off the top of the cage, and that's the finish.
Yeah, I mean, putting Cena there, and again, this is something we'll dive into in future, I'm sure, kind of solves some of the problem with his limited dates as well. He's just in a match to be the good guy in a good guy team, so you don't have to kind of book him for anything else. He's just there to help, maybe even as a surprise as well.
But the Brock just I don't see it at all. But it will link into something we'll talk about the main event, I guess, because it's all Paul Heyman centric, and there were some very weird things that happened, some interactions that have happened, since then, that I guess I can see why some fans are thinking, oh, Brock Lesnar might be more than this. Because they've got a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to him. Particularly, obviously, he was last seen F5 in referees, and whereas before they were quick to do the Brock Lesnar's been fined, Brock Lesnar's been suspended, Brock Lesnar's been escorted from the arena by police or security. Nothing happened.
Yeah, sure.
Then you got Heyman saying, Heyman, back for one night with him, but then is it for one
Something's
night?
Going on.
But anyway, we'll get to that.
We will. All right, so just to kind of cap off on the women's tag team match, I'm going to go with the good guys as well. Then I think it probably is going to be Io and Rhea. I'm hoping they don't. I will get the temptation of turning Io, but I really hope it's not the case. Let's move into someone we did just mention a moment ago, though. Let's talk about John Cena. Of course, it's his farewell tour. He's now going against someone who's just today announced that next year will be his farewell year in AJ Styles. He mentioned on the kickoff show that this is, it's time for him to start winding down. He's been mentioning it for a while. And this is also a match that many of us hoped might be on Cena's farewell tour. I'm looking forward to this one, but just because they are fun wrestlers working together. And they hyped it up quite well on the kickoff show because, again, they're baby faces. So it's always difficult building towards a babyface versus babyface when there's no kind of blood feud and it's just we respect each other and whatever else. But at the very end of it, I really did appreciate AJ Styles doing his old classic of beat up John Cena, which is quite funny. So I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys can do together. It does bring up more of kind of, at this stage, should we have been given this to kind of, repeat matches? And again, I think that's a whole podcast in itself. And I think once the dust has settled on Cena's final year, it'd be great for us to go back on it. But let's just focus on this match itself, because we've got it. It is here, and a lot of people are happy it is here. And I'm one of them as well, for kind of what it is on its own. It's just a fun match. It'd be fun for those in Perth to get this match as well. Picking the winner, though, I think is tough. Because it kind of does play into what Cena does in his final few matches as well. We've just seen him. He lost at WrestlePalooza, didn't he, to Brock Lesnar?
Lost
so
Cody as well.
Maybe here's where you get Brock come out and F5 him again or something like that. Or I don't really know. Or we set up that final match, and I know a lot of people are really starting to lean into the rumours of Gunther here as well. I really don't know where we're going with this, because I don't know what the point of this match is. If it's about getting him in the card to give him storyline progression, it would make a lot more sense now why they suddenly threw together a match and not a feud. AJ versus Cena, that gets him on the card, and everybody feels like, oh no, they ruined this beautiful moment between two legends showing each other appreciation because the big bad Gunther or whoever else ruins it. So I'm kind of talking myself into that prediction, Lucas, is what I'm saying. I'm going to go with the match gets ruined, and Gunther is the reason for that. I'm going to go, as far as the result goes, I'm going to go with maybe I can't even go with a draw. I'm going to say a DQ, because he's going to hit someone first, isn't he? He's going to hit Cena first. So
Cena will win then, wouldn't he? I guess by DQ.
Yeah, Cena wins by DQ.
But yeah. I mean, obviously, that's how they did it with the Brock Lesnar return last time, I guess. But I don't know whether they're going to do that on a PLE. If he had, I think it's the thing. If he had like another PLE that wasn't Survivor Series and obviously his last match, maybe, because then they can do the rematch and be a clean finish. I think it wouldn't. I'll just follow. I know it's a bit of a cop out, but I think because they can just follow that default, it's a house show format. I think Cena will win. If they want to do like a something, I think they might just do it after the match. They've got like 2 TV appearances of Cena in November. If they want to really start, do a build or something to his last match in Survivor Series. So I don't know whether there's need to hit the panic button just yet. Though I do know they like, well, apart from WrestlePalooza, it seems they like having obviously big surprises and big things happen on a PLE. Gunther's got to return at some point. But in a weird way, like I kind of don't want him to return now, because I'm looking at Raw how it is. It just makes sense though, because I guess they'd want potentially Gunther to return and then kind of be reintroduced again onto TV
on Raw. Yeah,
it's been a while, isn't it? It's been a while. But then the part of me just doesn't want that to happen, because I think they need to distribute the TV time to other people and other things like the Raw Tag Division, for example, and obviously even some of the women's mid-card stuff, because it seems obviously AJ Lee's back to being disappeared again.
She was in that rumoured match though, by the way, just to let you know. Again, don't know how true it was. Team Babyface, she was on.
I just think, I just kind of think we need... there needs to be other people that are featured. So there's that part to it. But I can see that it does fit their MO quite a lot. But I think it'll probably be done after the match, though. I don't know whether they'd risk a DQ or non-finish to this, because they can't do it again.
But they don't need to either, because no one needs to get the win, because they're both baby faces and it's just a legacy one more time type thing. So it doesn't really need a definitive...
I think
who really should have won.
I think the only reason I think it does is because Cena is retiring, and it's just, you don't want to leave any opening essentially for fans to think he can come back. And it's a case of if he has this match and it doesn't finish against this long-term rivalry, they build it up, blah blah. There's always going to be that, of course he's going to come back for the AJ Styles match.
See, I wouldn't think that. I think it's because maybe I just don't care. Like, I don't care. But I think it's because they're both baby faces. There wouldn't be a part of me that goes, who would have won that match? You know, like if it was, and saying that, I think they kind of didn't they do that with because R-Truth got involved. I mean, no, it was just a messy finish, wasn't it? The Randy Orton one, and that felt like it was going to be. Oh, maybe they'll do it again. The CM Punk one as well felt like. So I kind of get where you're coming from there. It does feel like a similar scenario, and maybe you're right. It does happen at the end of the match again. WrestlePalooza. I thought good for Mike to show up then. So I think I'm sticking with Gunther showing up, but maybe you're right. Maybe there'll be a victory before that, like a bit of a cleaner finish. If that's the case, then who is it? AJ Styles or John Cena?
The thing is, this is John Cena's final time wrestling outside the United States of America. This
yeah. Oh gosh, yeah.
This is the last thing, that's ever going to happen out. Well, I don't. This is move whatever. The last thing in this retirement tour that will be done, outside the United States of America. And I think they need to give it a definitive, conclusive finish. I think they don't. And even if it is AJ wins, which is also cool, like AJ deserves way more flowers than what he's been getting, the past few years, really.
Yeah.
And obviously, he himself has announced, he's looking at next year probably being his last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it needs a conclusive finish. But I will go with John Cena, just based off. Also, it will be his 100th pay-per-view win, wouldn't it?
Oh, would it?
Yeah, remember he didn't win. That's how they were building up the Brock match last month, wasn't it? But obviously he lost to Brock, so it'd be his 100th pay-per-view victory. And what better way to do it than to beat, at the moment anyway, the biggest rival that he's kind of got presented to him, because he's already faced obviously Punk and.
As far as what's left historically, I know there's the big one of. I don't even want to talk about it because I could be here for an hour and I don't want to talk myself into it. But I will mention, huh?
Mr. Rated R? We're talking about
Mr. Yeah. Oh gosh, it would be so good. It would be so good, and I think it's more doable than it might be in any other timeline, any other time, period of wrestling history.
But does that exist as a one-off in your head? And then he goes back to AEW, or is his
contract up? Yeah, some people think his contract should be up around that time.
I know we're obviously living in a world where we didn't think we'd live in. We live in a world where, which I still cannot believe this exists. But we've got the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys having a match for the NXT Championship on a TNA event. It's literally like Rock and Roll Express and the Road Warriors fighting for the WCW Tag Titles in like 2001.
Yeah,
it's bonkers.
Yeah,
even further than that. I think you're talking about 20 years, more 25 years even. So you're talking, you're talking literally like the Road Warriors deciding they're going to fight for the tag belts in like 2009. I think by that point, at least one of them was dead. Like,
they came back in when was it? I think Hulk died in like 2000, or they even around 2003, because then he became Heidenreich, Animal and Heidenreich after that. So, you're right. It is, when you put it like that, it's really bizarre. I mean, not saying I'm not looking forward to it. Don't get me wrong, and not happy about it. But
it's a
timeline-wise, crazy
rematch for Hulk and Andre rematch at WrestleMania 28, WrestleMania 30. We're laughing, but this is the gap we're talking about. 25 years.
True.
We're talking. Yeah.
Good for them.
But anyway,
good for them.
What I'm getting at is never say never, but I don't see them allowing a non-contracted superstar to work a match full stop, let alone obviously Cena's last match.
I think it's the history of like we're in a different world. But I know you can only set it to so much, of an extent, because some things are still fact and they wouldn't want to do certain things. But right, let's part the Edge conversation there for another day where we can continue to be wishful kind of thinking in the future. But sticking to this, a kind of a somewhat dream match that we've got a rematch of again. John Cena versus AJ Styles. I think I'm still going to go for the Gunther thing. Who is it you're going for again? Or did you? Cena, you are going Cena. Okay, so Cena to pick up the victory. And I understand you're thinking there as well, because he's got a kind of, I guess, strong on his way out towards his final match as well. So
your way would also say Cena to get the victory. It'd be by DQ, I guess.
Yeah, true. You get both things in some ways, but Right, let's move on to I was going to say main event, but I really don't know what's going to be main event. I saw some rumors saying that ESPN were advertising Roman Reigns Bronson Reed as the main event. So I don't think that's going to be the case, but
I mean, obviously we have seen even the Royal Rumble match doesn't go last always. But I do think that you shouldn't really break the tradition already on a brand new event.
The Crown Jewel match. It's weird when you kind of bring it up in that sense, but
it involves both champions.
Big story here behind both these guys. There's a lot going on, of course, especially for Seth Rollins, as you've touched on earlier. So I'm looking forward to hearing your point on that. But yeah, Seth Rollins, world champion versus WWE champion Cody Rhodes. We've touched on what it means to have a champion versus champion match quite a bit already. So let's focus on what it means specifically for these guys. I mentioned earlier on, I like the fact that Cody's back in it because it gives an opportunity to give a little bit of kind of legacy, no pun intended, for someone like Cody. But also, and again, my example of, I think the world champion needs to win it. And I think that's the case this time as well for Seth. He's had a bit of a rocky kind of period for, his vision. Doesn't feel like his vision at the moment. And you kind of alluded to it there as well. Brock Lesnar's in the mix. You've got Paul Heyman very recently, very obviously saying to Seth, look, I might have to dump you, basically, and we might have to move on without you. Before that, it felt subtle and like they were going to do, were they not sure? Were they just going to break up the thing or move Seth and Becky away from it? And, it's been kind of confusing, but now they've really made it obvious. They did a few subtle things a few weeks ago where I really liked it, by the way. Heyman being like, don't go in there. Oh my gosh, you've gone in there and got beaten up. I told you not to do that. I thought that was clever. But this past week, they were really kind of like playing into like, he might leave him, which now tells me he's not. He's not leaving him. But we still got this kind of Brock Lesnar thing hanging in the background. Cody himself has a few enemies, and kind of there's a story that needs to come out of this anyway, whether it be the Jacob Fatu one or Drew or some sort of mixed thing as well. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this, man? Champion versus champion. For me, the winner should be, and I'm hoping it will be, and I think it will be, Seth Rollins. So I'm going to lock in my prediction for Seth anyway. But what about your kind of theory surrounding, I guess, the future for Seth?
I think that Seth is having us all on.
Yeah, that's what I feel as well, which is why he's been quiet this week.
Yeah, I think this is like another plan. But I think only thing that's kind of, I guess to be fair, like Cody falling for it kind of fits into the motive. But yeah, it feels like it's not being talked about enough, but that might be one. Obviously, the downfall of Seth is, kind of the focus of this, and all the kind of different relationships and stuff, all the questioning. But it does feel very much that this is like a Heyman and Seth plan, or this is how they want it to go. I imagine another reason why I think this match will be main event / on last is because I don't think it will be a match that will just be kept to the people in the ring. I think obviously there's a lot bubbling under when it comes to both these wrestlers. We've still got the ongoing feud with Punk obviously for Rollins. LA Knight as well is involved. You could argue now, though I guess they also do feature in or factor into the Roman stuff maybe a little bit more at the moment. But then obviously, of course, you've got the Vision, who maybe one member less depending on how they decide to do the street fight. But still, there's Braun, there's Becky, there's lots of other outside factors basically being featured in this match. But yeah, I think ultimately Rollins has got to win. And obviously, we did the DKW prediction today, and like pretty much everyone has said for Cody to win this.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That shocks me. Like, I get it because company guy and they just push him all the time. But like,
used to it, aren't we?
Yeah, but I'm seeing it different. I am seeing it as like the reason he's in this match and coming out with he's the champ. Don't get me wrong, but like he would have been in the match. But the reason they're like, or a benefit basically of him being in the match is the fact that he won it last year and the fact that he's like they've done that. He's got the ring and he's built the prestige on it, and he's going to be. It's a reason for him to be upset about not winning. Like someone not winning it for champ versus champ is we'll move on. But like someone who feels like the ring got ripped from him, which is a cool visual, they might do something like that anyway. And I think what you're saying there about like it being a ruse from Seth and Heyman, I mean, that's what this whole story's been, right? It started that way with Seth winning over Heyman and secretly, and then them revealing it at WrestleMania. And then the big moment from after that was him, pretending he was still amazing, just to think back how cool it was, cashing in, and kind of throwing his crutches and all that.
And obviously bringing Becky into things.
Yeah, like it's been Very that's their MO, you know. So I completely get where you're coming from.
Yeah, and so I think as well. There's more mileage to tell this. I do get they do like doing the whole you never beaten me kind of thing, and they may want to factor that into future things. But I do think that this is a feud which because they've reopened it by their choice. Oh, not by their choice, but by it is by their choice, but it is mainly by this booking. Which is another thing they've got to factor in. They are going to continue with this. Is that if they do want to park feuds, you know, they then need to factor that into potential future championship situations. Like, for example, the Drew and Punk thing, I think that's very much parked. But what if next year, one or both of those people, both of them are champion? Then you've got to revisit, you've got to basically reopen it for one match, you know, even though you just closed it, you know. And similarly for stuff like WrestleMania matches. What if then the champions get drafted and move out, and then you end up with a WrestleMania, you know, the WrestleMania blood feud ends up just being done at Crown Jewel again because they're both champions. You know, so we've got to factor that in. But I think there's much more to come from Seth winning than there is from Cody winning in this. I think Cody's got some stuff he needs to sort out on SmackDown. It seems obviously we've got, you know, Drew McIntyre still very much wanting the championship. Jacob Fatu wanting the championship. Potentially, if they want to touch upon at the end of SmackDown, instant reaction, you know, potentially looking at maybe Azza Black, Damian Priest, kind of all these people bubbling under, and that should keep him occupied. Like, he's been the face of the company, he's done a fantastic job, but I think the tide's already starting to turn in some cities in the US where he's getting, you know, a few boos every now and again, because we are talking about a guy who's, you know, main event in WrestleMania, like 3 years in a row, you know, one King of the Ring, you know, one
two Royal Rumbles
back to back. Already won the Crown Jewel Championship. You know, does he need much more? Like, probably.
Yeah, you've actually kind of built me up into kind of if Cody wins me right type situation. Then this has come from someone, you know, I've enjoyed. Like I say, I think he's done it great, and I think he is deserving of the position he's in. But they need to be careful of that. And the good thing about it actually is if Cody's a great sympathetic babyface, so you know, ripping the ring out of his hand or something like that. Or, I mean, I guess they won't do that because he won't be wrestling with it. But something along those lines at least is good because it creates that sympathy. But Cody goes off and does his own thing. Like, that's the beauty of it in some ways, that they are on separate brands, that there is that story from the past, you know, the Hell in a Cell and all this kind of stuff, the injury, the return that Cody had at WrestleMania was against Seth Rollins, of course, as well. Dusty, you know, they can play into all these kind of historic things, but then at the same time separate as quickly as they need to. And it just becomes, because all the other things, the examples we've given, it was at someone's expense, but that continued, you know, like, you know, you brought you know, the Punk thing, you brought in Becky, you know, all this kind of stuff. Whereas this, like, he uses Cody as the pawn, basically, to be like, we're still masterminds and we're still buddies. But Cody, it doesn't have to go him and Cody next month. Cody just goes off and does what he needs to do. And then Seth goes and does what he needs to do, but looks kind of a genius, basically, because he has this kind of new ruse. So, yeah, I'm really liking that idea. And I hope that is the way to go about it as well. And ultimately, I do think for many reasons, for the ones we just said, and also for the title as well, I think it's a good thing if Seth Rollins wins. Yeah,
it's good to have different people. I mean, you'd argue it should really be something that people only do once, you know. And then I guess if there's just again, could be. The thing is, traditions are weird because you have no idea at the start what's going to stick, what's not going to stick. You know, the amount of stuff we've seen in the past, think, oh yeah, maybe they'll do it again. No, it doesn't get done again. Like, you know, like one of the biggest things to me is scramble matches just disappearing. Just doing like 2 of them, then both being bangers, and then they're going, oh, you know, no more.
I've just remembered another one, and this isn't as fondly looked at by some people, but even though I think it could be great. But another example, like we said earlier on about them trying to make Saudi appear kind of something important happen or make them feel like they had something important in their shows, was the World Cup. That started Saudi as well, didn't it? So it's
annoyingly though, that's what happened when, you know, politics and money and wrestling get involved, because of that was them being annoyed, obviously, about Qatar getting the World Cup. That's basically what it came out of. And then Vince McMahon turned it into a vanity project for Shane McMahon to win.
So weird. The one of wrestling is so weird. Like,
it's going to be. There is so many periods of wrestling where if you know, like I said, at TKW, I've got wrestlers who are, you know, I've got people coming to train with me who are 16, 17, 18 years old, and you know, some of them do say, you know, they just got into wrestling this year or last year or a couple of years ago, and there's so many bits where I'm just like, Because now it's so easy. Like, everyone's got Netflix and YouTube and all that kind of stuff. You can type whatever you want to type in.
Yeah.
And eventually, this new generation of wrestlers or upcoming fans are going to stumble upon stuff which will be so hard to comprehend. Like, because it's just night and day from what takes.
Yeah.
Like, how do you even explain to them, to someone who's never seen, someone's only seen WWE this year, how do you even explain to them the whole World Cup situation, the whole Shane McMahon thing, the whole Undertaker versus Goldberg, like
strange period, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, would you imagine, like, you say, oh, you got a friend who wants to maybe come around and watch some wrestling with you. You know what, mate? I'm going to go out and get the food. Stick on WrestleMania 36. Stick on WrestleMania 36. Oh, why don't you stick on Extreme Rules, the horror show, the Eye for an Eye match.
Yeah. That's
there's so many things. You're just
man.
like, how are these people, new eyes, going to look at this? Like, in the era we're in now, which is bonkers. And the thing is, it makes it more bonkers that a lot of the people are still in the company. Whereas in like years gone by, like when people are only in the company for like 2 years, 3 years, maybe, it's like, okay, fair enough. Like, these are different people. But you're literally talking about, Damian Priest and The Miz had a match where there's zombies around the ring. Like, this was within, and this is within the same universe.
It's not very far away, is it? Yeah,
it's crazy,
good point.
There's
a lot. Oh man, I know you've said it before, but that specific you touched on a little bit there, kind of 2018, 2019, but then you've kind of given some more examples of like pandemic era stuff. And I know you've said it before, but it'd be crazy. It'd be great to look back on that crazy period of like what wrestling was like at the time.
Well, even post COVID, you had the whole Nikki ASH thing. That came and went.
Yeah. Gosh.
There's so much stuff.
And look, that's not to say some of it weren't good or good in its own way, but we are, and not to say everything now is perfect either. Don't get me wrong, but I do think we're definitely in a much better position as far as wrestling goes. But look, that brings us pretty much to the end of the show, actually, and kind of predicting the card overall. I think we're both kind of happy with our prediction for Seth freaking Rollins there, and there are some potential surprises. Not like WrestlePalooza where we had a million kind of surprises, and we even said going into it they're not all going to happen, but at least one or two, and it turns out not much happened at all, other than a fantastic match between Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky was the main highlight. But I do think this is a card that kind of sets itself up for not only great matches, but hopefully some really good moments. And again, if SmackDown in Perth was anything to go by, we're in for a good weekend essentially, because that was a really enjoyable SmackDown. If you haven't seen it already, go and enjoy that, and then hopefully you'll also enjoy our instant reaction review to SmackDown. Again, you'll find it on this very channel, which was tagged on to the end of the watch along, but it will also be uploaded separately. We have been here giving you the weekend kickoff experience on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel, and on the day of the PLE, you'll also see the build-up show as well, where some of these streams will be repeated for replay sections, but you'll also see us going live, talking about last-minute rumors, any changes to predictions, and things like that as well. But yeah, a very, very fun stream overall. Thank you to everyone that's tuned in, whether live or on demand. Big thank you to Lucas as ever. Before we get out of here, Lucas, any final thoughts as we head into the full kind of next 24 hours of wrestling in Australia?
No, let's bring it on. Let's bring on Raw as well. Be a fun weekend, I think. I think they could have given something to NXT this weekend, though. They had a spare day after all. They got Sunday, nothing on.
Yeah, could have squeezed that in. Yeah, good point. But yeah, like you say, it's it should be good, and hopefully the fun continues. Again, SmackDown very fun. Crown Jewel has a lot going for it, and then look, Monday Night Raw to cap it off as well. So let's see how we go with that one. But again, I've been Scott. He's been Lucas. This has been the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. Thanks very much. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye for now.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.